Blessings, everybody. This is Dale. Thank you so much for joining with me today on the Word Podcast. We're pressing on to Psalm 119, verse 49 is where we're going to start. It's 49 through 56, I think, yes. This particular stanza. We read it in the previous episode, so let's go back and just look at a couple points from it, okay? So here's verse 49. Begins with the Hebrew letter Zayin, Z-A-Y-I-N, and it says this: Remember the word to your servant, in which you have made me hope. So what's the psalmist asking for here? Yeah, he's asking for God to remember what he had said to his servant, because the servant is hoping in those words. He said, and you have made me hope with the words that you gave me. So he's saying, God, remember these words. Verse 50, this is my comfort in my affliction, that your word has revived me. Oh, so now we're getting a little more context for this whole thing. He is afflicted, the psalmist. But he says, I've been comforted, and I've been comforted by your word. So I've received the comfort from your word, and I'm asking that you remember the word. Okay, remember the word. Don't forget the word. There we say adhere to the word. He trusts the Lord and his word. He's saying this word has revived me. Revived me. And that literally means, as we spoke about earlier, preserved me alive. Your word has literally preserved me. Your word has literally kept me alive. So the psalmist is asking for the Lord to honor this word, to follow through with it maybe. Verse 51, the arrogant utterly deride me. Yet I do not turn aside from your law. And so what are the arrogant doing? And these are the ones, that word's also translated as proud and insolent, presumptuous, arrogant. Well, they are deriding him, scorning him is what that means, scoffing at him. Well, what would they be scorning and scoffing at him about? Well, any number of things, maybe his affliction, likely the fact that he is dependent upon the Lord, that he's dependent upon the word of the Lord. He says, they're utterly deride me, but I will not turn aside from your law. He said, even when these folks scorn me, when they deride me, when they make fun of me, I'm not turning aside from your law, from your word. Verse 52, I have remembered your ordinances from of old. Another way that can be translated is, I have remembered your ordinances from everlasting, O Lord, and comfort myself. So he's saying that even in the midst of this time of deriding, this time of affliction, I am remembering your ordinances. And this particular word is translated ordinance, speaks of the justice of God, speaks of the judgment of God, okay? One translation is proper, fitting, measure, that type of thing. And so it goes beyond this idea of rules and regulations, okay? Deals with the truth of a matter. I remember these things from everlasting, the things from before there was time, O Lord. And he comforts himself. Comforts himself. Literally the word means console oneself, to be sorry, okay, to regret. So he takes comfort in the words of the Lord. Verse 53, burning indignation has seized me because of the wicked who forsake your law. That's a great word, burning indignation. It literally means heat, burning heat, raging heat. And he's saying that this has seized him because of the wicked. What are the wicked? The criminal. It speaks of the wicked. The wicked are defined as those who forsake your law. So the folks who are forsaking the law of the Lord and that really are causing the trouble here in his life, the affliction, the deriding, and that kind of stuff, it is enraging the psalmist. He's being burned with a rage, burning indignation, has seized him, taken hold of him, possessed him. Verse 54, your statutes are my songs in the house of my pilgrimage. So that word statutes means statute, or prescribed tasks, the things that you're supposed to do, the ordinances. These things are the psalmist's song. They're his psalm, his Zamira, in the house of his pilgrimage. Well, what would be the house of his pilgrimage? Well, it literally means sojourning place. And it's not speaking of a stone and earth house. It's speaking of our corporeal existence. It's speaking of his body. And he's saying, your statutes are my song in the house of my pilgrimage. He said, your statutes are my songs in my body, my internal declaration. This is what I sing. This is what I declare, is your statutes. And I do so while I am still in this corporeal existence, still within this body. Now, the last couple of verses, verse 55. O Lord, I remember your name in the night and keep your law. So you notice how often he's mentioned law here. Now he brings in this idea of name, okay? And we've looked at it before as the Hebrew word Shem, and it means reputation, fame, glory. It means name. And the name of God is all that encompasses the Lord Most High. All that is him. And he says, you know what? I remember you. I remember you in the night. In those nighttime, when I'm reflected upon these type of things, Lord, I remember you. And I keep your law. Verse 56. This has become mine, that I observe your precepts. This has become mine, and then that because I observe your precepts. What has become his? Well, I think the things that he's describing right here. He says, because I observe your precepts. Let me just back at the beginning. Because I observe these precepts and I remember your word and I hope in your word, then I have comfort in the time of affliction. Your word revives me. Okay. He says, even though I'm derided, I'm not turning aside from you. I comfort myself. Notice that's twice we see comfort right here. I comfort myself with your ordinances, with your precepts. Oh, sure. It enrages me that the wicked and what they're doing, that they forsake your law. But you know what, God? These statutes of yours, these precepts, these ordinances, these laws, these words of yours, they are my song. And they're the song that I sing literally internally. He would sing them also externally. I think this might be David writing this, that he would sing it externally. But in this house, in this body I've got, these are the songs. These are the foundational truths that I sing. And out of that, Lord, I remember your name and I keep your law. Closing again, all this has become mine because I observe your precepts. Folks, there's serious things that will happen within us. Transformative things will occur within us when we learn and observe the precepts of the Lord. Just a quick reminder what all we saw here. We saw precepts, we saw law, we saw statute, we saw law, we saw ordinances, we saw law again, we saw word, and we saw word. When you go back through like that, you can hear the ones that are repeated, and that gives you an idea what the whole thing was about. Okay? Well, thank you for your time. Again, I'm Dale. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.